Okay, are you able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, and you're able to hear my voice loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So at any moment of time, my voice suddenly goes or the presentation stops. Kindly just, send a message. And as I keep saying, you are free to interrupt me at any moment of time to either ask a question or to share a piece of information. The idea is this is an experiential class. We don't do the normal, monologue kind of scenario. So this is the last unit in MDI one that I mean, there are only three lessons per, per particular module. I think that's a limitation in terms of the regional center, etc. So I picked up the economic determinants. Most of all the units that you receive are self-learning modules or SLMs. As I keep saying, sometimes these SLMs, because they have been written by academicians, seem to be a little dense or circuitous. Whenever such a case happens, do please check up with your search engine or AI assist. Always the caveat is that whenever you're doing a search engine or AI assist, please cross verify and cross verify with a known source, because AI assist specifically is notorious for giving you wrong information. So, having said that, let's move on. We are talking about economic determinants. We have seen over the last two classes on the core concepts in migration and diaspora, theory and methodology, that migration is determined by multiple factors. And as I was telling you, in life, in the real world, there are always multiple factors at play. So if you were to read a news item or if you were to hear a particular narration, it almost feels like there is a single factor determinant. And whenever you see such a thing, it's always a determinism, which normally never works in the real world. There are multiple factors at play. So you would need to figure out what are the other factors. They might be at any moment of time one factor which is predominant, but having said that, there are multiple factors at play. Now, in migration, one of an important factor is economic. Remember the fact economics determines a large part of our life. Not that other factors are not important, but one of the important factors is economics. So let's look at this. Let's understand the meaning and concept of economic determinants shaping migration decision, role and importance of economic determinants in migration. So it has a role. On what basis do people decide to migrate? What are the economics? As I keep repeating, migration cannot be attributed to a single factor. It's a multicultural, multidimensional concept. These and factors such as political factors. Besides economic, there are political factors, there are environment factors, there are social factors, there are personal factors, there are immigration policies, etc., etc. So I was reading this particular book written by this lady author in New Zealand, whose protagonist is a girl who migrates from India to New Zealand. In New Zealand, she does face racism, but the protagonist feels that that racism is nothing compared to the casteism that she faced back at home. Now that became a major factor for that protagonist or that young girl. All factors, economic determinants, most major motivational determinants for people and families to leave their own countries. Inevitably, every human or every living creature, I would say, prefers a better environment or a better life. Human beings are a little more complex than the other creatures, because human beings tend to look at, much in future and much back in history. So, but every human being wants to better life. Now, that betterment or the sense of deprivation can be real or perceived. Also, understand with human beings, things can be real or things can be perceived. I can perceive myself to be discriminated, which may not be real. Economic determinants are factors that have some economic aspects and dimensions related to it, which is quite obvious. Low agricultural income, agricultural unemployment, underemployment regarded as major factors driving migration to more rich or dynamic areas. International migration include improved potential for increased earning, income and wage differentials, better employment opportunities, higher standard of living, more comfortable safety nets, among others. And as I said earlier, everybody wants to improve their life. That improvement. So, for example, the people who migrate from rural to urban areas, if you look at in real terms, their life really does not improve. In fact, they are much better off in rural areas than urban areas. However, in the absence of employment in the rural areas, they come to urban areas to get employment to be able to remit back money in the rural areas. And the same would be if you extend this concept, the same would be in international migration. A lot of people who migrate end up doing low work jobs or low skill jobs outside, but let's say a difference of exchange rate might enable them to remit money back home, improving the status of their families. Individuals, being rational humans, make decisions based on their own self interest. Having said that, as you go further into this subject, you will realize that many a times human beings do not seem to be rational actors. There are many more considerations in taking those decisions. They conduct cost benefit analysis prior to making migration decisions. As you go through the course, you also will realize the fact that many a times the decisions are not rational but emotional. Undocumented migrants make up a large portion of migrant population, and primary motivation is to migrate is economic. Also, as I have been repetitively saying, there are no illegal migrants. There are migrants who are undocumented. Illegal is a political term. They might be using illegal routes. Again, illegal routes are not legally defined routes by the state. So a lot of these terms are political terms. Has a significant impact on the country's economy. And again, multiple researches across the world have clearly shown that migration is beneficial to both the host and home country. It leads to economic growth since migration typically adds to the development of human capital in receiving nations and account for a significant portion of the country's GDP. The whole economy of US is based on migrants. The political administration, the current political administration of US are migrants. And yet the politics of these administration is anti-immigrants. In fact, if you were to look at all countries and their political establishment, and trace back their movements, you might find that most of the people are migrants. All of us are migrants in a particular way because all of us have traveled. We might claim ourselves to be, for example, today we may claim ourselves to be Indians, but if I were to trace each caste, subcaste, or ethnicity, or people from where they have come, we might find ourselves to be migrants. Because remember, evolution of human being a lakh years old, or evolution of modern human being a lakh years ago, and the evolution of human beings, which is millions of years ago, has been based on migration. People were always migrating. Economic migration decisions are influenced by a variety of macro and microeconomic factors. Guys, I hope I'm not going too fast.
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, perfect. Stocks and flows of migrants, wage rates in destination and origin countries, economic opportunities in origin and destination countries, inflation in both host and origin countries, exchange rate, ability to transfer fund from home to host to host to home are all macroeconomic impacts. So exchange rate becomes a major determinant. If I was to earn 100 rupees out here, or go to the Gulf and earn 100 dinars or whatever the currency is, and the exchange rate is 50 to 1, it makes a major difference. If I was to earn $100 and current dollar rate being 95 or 96, look at the earnings and the ability to remit money back home. It's a major important area, and that is why people are willing to spend money upfront and go through illegal routes, as they say, because they want a better life in the absence of legal ways of migration. People will go through the illegal ways. In case you were not there in the first class or the second class, stocks and flows are, stock is the number of people at any moment of time in a particular area. The way to calculate international migration is the migrant stock and the migrant flow. Flows is back and forth. So if somebody was to take a measure on the airport in terms of number of people flying in and number of immigrants flying out, that's the flow. Whereas if someone was to do a survey of a particular area and extrapolate, they would know what is the immigrant stock. Income differentials and imperfections in developing economy. Increased household income, liquidity are most immediate and net benefits of migration. Income disparity, home and host nation, major factor in deciding whether or not to migrate. So uh, again, we talked about global north, global south. Global north are countries which are developed, which have capital. Global south are countries more often than not who are colonized, who have excess of labor, not enough of capital, not enough of jobs. There is poverty. So people from global south would like to migrate to global north to get an employment, to be able to earn money, to be able to remit money. You can similarly, talk about a global north and global south in India. For example, the cities are in a way global north and the rural areas are in a way global south. Global South, enough of labor, less of capital. People migrate to cities where it's less of labor, more of capital, and then they remit back money back home. There was this news item which I was reading about how the Uriyas and the Biharis, people from Bihar who travel to Kerala for employment, are remitting money back to Orissa and Bihar, and you will see the change of culture in terms of the construction of houses in Orissa and Bihar on the models of Kerala. Remember, Kerala, a large number of Keralites migrate internationally. Initially, they used to migrate to Gulf. Now, a lot of them migrate to the Europe and the US. In fact, the other day I was seeing the India parade in New York City, which was being addressed by Mayor Mamdani, who's also has an Indian descent, and among some of the leaders of the Indian community were Keralites, which I noticed the names. What were the names, and I was trying to determine from where they were coming from, and they were the leaders in that particular borough in New York. So obviously they
So
had been there.
just to interrupt you,
Yeah,
like as you have mentioned, large number of Keralites they currently going to Gulf countries and all.
yeah.
That trend has been established. So, is there any reason behind this, like why from Kerala people are going, or the long days before the people went there, and then they are pulling these people from the state?
So, SK, inevitably, historically, if you know, if you and you are free to Google and research simultaneously, there was always connection between traders from Arab traders and Kerala. The
Okay,
interesting part is, in history when we were reading in the school. I don't know now histories have changed and all that stuff because of politics and all that stuff. But when we were reading history in school in CBSE, we were we were made to believe that Islam came into India when Muhammad bin Qasim attacked Sindh in 700 something AD or something. Essentially, the narration was that Islam came to India via the north. This particular narration conveniently forgot that there were large trading between Arab traders and Kerala, and the southern route was also a route in which Islam came in. In fact, the southern route was also the route in which Christianity came in into India. So there was already a connection between the Arab traders and Kerala. And when the migration started, international migration started, and remember, Kerala has the largest literacy rates. Obviously, they were more aware, or in the absence. So you can search on how did Keralites first reach the Gulf. Maybe it was because of and the way migration happens. It typically is a chain migration. So one person goes, and then people from the same family or the village, or and that you see in the cities. So whichever city you are, you go on the road and see a vendor and ask that vendor, where are you from? More often than not, that vendor is a migrant. In fact, the people who work domestically in your house would be migrants. Your neighbors might be migrant. And then you ask them, where did you come from? And then the second question you ask, how did you come here? And more often than not, you will get an answer that, oh my, this and this relative or this and this person from this village was already working in this place. I routinely ask this question. I live in Gurgaon in Haryana. And when I ask this question, they say, oh, this guy was already here. This guy. That's how the information spreads. And it always is the fact that when there is somebody who's already gone there, the hassle or the problems of migration reduce, because there is already somebody who will advise you on what to do and what not to do. SK? SK?
yes.
And then what typically happened in the Gulf is, Gulf, the thing is that you might stay for any number of years, you will never get a citizenship. So Keralites
Mm.
now have taken a concessions choice that Gulf could be the first step to them migrating to Europe or US. In fact, Gulf today has a lot of migrants going in from UP, from Bihar, from other states. The Keralites are now opting out of Gulf and going into Europe and US or Canada, where they get citizenship. SK?
Yes.
Okay. So, as I was saying, income differentials, imperfections in developing economy. So, here are some of the, and what we call the push and pull factor. So, for example, poverty is a push factor. So, a family which is poor, that poverty will push the family to opt out for an area or for a place where they are able to earn a living to be able to overcome that poverty, or it will push a male member of the family, like for example, rural areas. Poverty pushes out, or unemployment pushes out a male member of the family to go to the urban area. And then there are pull factors. So, cities, if there are jobs in the cities, that is a pull factor for pulling people from rural areas into the city. So, these are what is called the push and pull factors. In a migration scenario, there are push and pull factors. And this push and pull factors could be economic, they could be non-economic. So this is a snapshot of the push and pull factors. Just quickly go through it. This is taken. This figure is there on the net. I don't think so. It's there as a part of the SLM. You can take a snapshot, a screenshot, or you can search on the net and you will be able to get it. The economics of immigration.
So in this context, just to add,
Please.
hello,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Tell me, SK.
in a lot of years back, people from south also they have migrated to Malaysia or some other countries for
Okay.
jobs and etc. And they have settled over there.
Correct.
And if you see the people from Punjab also, large number of Punjabis are in UK or USA.
Correct.
Hmm. So as you've told, who has got there initially, maybe had gone through struggle and all, and later on he has pulled people from their own places to increase that things. So the
S-
trend was there quite high earlier, but nowadays this is going down. Like example for Malaysia, now only
Okay.
people who are in the business class, they only can travel or they are going over there.
Okay.
But that what you call that job or etc. That link is slowly diminishing.
Okay. That link could also be diminishing, possibly because of internal politics, because Malaysia also went through something called a Bhumiputra scenario, where the people of the land. So, for example, look at immigration to the US. The present administration and their anti-immigrant immigration policies is decreasing immigration to the US. Now the immigration is to other countries. So these immigration trends also change depending on jobs, depending on local politics, depending on the border scenarios, etc., etc. Escape.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So these are the push and pull factors. Again, as I said, push and pull factors can be broken up into economic and non-economic. There are some economic theories also to explain migration. As I have been speaking continuously. Theories are concepts or ways to understand an issue or to simplify an issue. But theories are contextual. They are proposed by scholars, by economists, by various people based on space and time. So, a particular theory which was very popular in a particular time may fall into disrepute, or there might be multiple flaws with the theory, and another theory might come in. So, dependency theory, Marxist perspective, world system theory see migration as a result of global capitalism and are concerned about marginalization and displacement of rural populations around the world. In fact, these theories are given in detail in the unit. You do not need to remember the theories. You might need, say, there are theories like dependency theory. You might remember a couple of them. Marxism always is against capitalism. They are talking about deprivation. They're talking about displacement. They are talking about how capitalism exploits. So you might remember one or two theories to be able to craft your answer in your end term examination. So, for example, these particular theories see migration as a process that caters to the requirement and interest of major multinational corporation and capitalists. There might be other theories which might see this process as different. There's a dual labor market theory that migration is mainly driven by permanent demand of cheap labor in developed countries that is often met by migrant labor from low and developing countries or developing economies. These jobs are often shunned by native workers due to social status and prestige issue and are often undertaken by migrant workers from developing regions. You can see the same thing with internally in India. You can see many a times the low paid and the work which will not be taken by natives is taken by immigrants. Look at garbage collection. More often than not, in garbage collection in most of the cities, you may find people from from the backward districts of Bengal, or you might find people from Bangladesh, because the natives will not do that work. So the jobs are shunned by native workers due to social status and prestige issue undertaken by migrant work. Across the world, that's a trend. In the US also, most of the low work or supposedly low status work is done by the immigrants. Heathrow Airport, London, most of the janitor staff are South Asians. So there is a term called deprivation. Migration as a result of relative deprivation as well. People choice are influenced by the degree of pleasure or deprivation compared to the community they belong to. Again, as I said, all these terms are relative. So a person looking to improve his or her lot may be real or perceived, but essentially minimizing relative deprivation rather than maximizing of absolute wealth drives migration. So people try and decrease deprivation. We always try and improve our, try and reduce our deprivation. And we always take decision based on what reduces our deprivation. So deprivation is a term, is a keyword that you can use when crafting your answer. Migration is a risk and income diversity strategy utilized by rural households in low income countries. So in fact, migration is also a process which is a risk aversion strategy. People send one person outside. So in the rural areas, in spite of having some farmland, one of the male members may go to the city to earn a livelihood so that there is a reduction of risk because the crops can fail. So, new economics of labor migration, these are the theories we talked about. There are certain theories which is given. Just go through your SLM. You will see those theories. Again, as I said, I don't think so. Questions come in terms of write about this theory, but you can use, if you remember the theories, you can write this to craft your answer. Aside from income gaps and inequalities, imperfection in the variety of markets, such as labor, capital, and insurance, is another economic factor. For example, rich countries supply with unemployment insurances benefits. Developing and low income countries are rarely provided with such benefits. So, inevitably, as it is said, one medical emergency many a times leads you into poverty in the absence of welfare benefits. The interesting part is Americans are today fighting for universal healthcare. Universal healthcare is available, for example, in Europe, in Canada. So that's why people would like to go there. People take up jobs in companies which provide healthcare. there is always a cost benefit analysis. The family as a whole determines whether or not a member of the household will migrate based on cost benefit. Because remember, migration decision involves a cost. International migration decision involves passport, visa, all these are costs. Then the cost of travel, the cost of going from your culture into another culture, the cost of staying out there. It's a major cost. Frequently conduct cost benefit analysis according to literature leads in a positive net result to migration for the individual. If it does not lead to a net positive result, migration will not happen. And that cost benefit also is based on the future economic returns. So typically illegal migration from India into US, where upfront people pay lakhs of rupees, is based on the fact that once you go out there and get a job, then you can, or for example, student loans. So a person takes a crore or 2 crore student loan to educate their children in the US or Canada in the hope that once that degree comes in, the child will be able to earn enough to be able to, repay the loan and, to help the family. There's a cost benefit analysis. Okay, it was also mentioned in the neoclassical theory, considers migration to be an investment decision and a result of cost benefit by the household or persons. So it either is determined by the individual or by the family as a whole. More often than not, migration is a family affair. Regional and geographical disparities in labor supply demand at a micro level, individual as a rational and income maximizing actor who decides whether or not to relocate based on a cost benefit analysis. It's a repetition of whatever we spoke earlier based on migrants' expected income rather than the actual income. So you take
So
an education. Yeah,
this point, what you have mentioned, this culture, I think it's becoming very crucial nowadays because there are some instances. Example, people from West Bengal, they reside in the Coachbihar district,
correct.
close to Bangladesh border. They went to
Okay,
work in New Delhi,
okay,
as a housemaid, some kind of low-profile job.
correct.
So they were confiscated there. And then they were sent, they got a little bit of harassment and then they returned back.
Okay.
And like similar case also is noticed even people who are going in US, UK, if
Hmm.
people are not able to match with their culture,
Hmm.
they send back the people.
Hmm.
Even their workplace also, like in Gulf countries,
Hmm.
these don't come too often. People who go there for work, like as a
Hmm.
bankshan or
Hmm.
as a constructor worker, when they
Hmm.
come back,
Hmm.
they don't feel too happy.
Hmm.
Uh, so these kinds of issues are there. Even we feel too great about India, but people who are staying in abroad or some other countries, they think that they are even greater than us.
See, absolutely. In fact, that is why the adjustment becomes very difficult because once you get set in a particular way, then also it has to do with a social status. So there was this Bollywood movie known as Swadesh. I don't know whether you've seen it or not, but today also, if you were coming from the US, your status seems to be a little higher than if you were coming from Malaysia or Thailand. SK?
Right.
So it has to do with the social status. My child is working in London, is said with a particular high social status, then my child is working in Nepal, even though Nepal is across the national border. So, listen, at the end of the day, human beings are complex entities based on, a lot of, things that the society works with, status being one. So, in fact,
Right, right.
and that's where I was talking about rational and an emotional decision. Many a times, the rationality is overcome by the emotionality. So
Right, right.
I want to get a US degree because that puts me on a higher pedestal than possibly an Indian degree. SK?
Right.
So absolutely, what you're saying is absolutely right. Then, of course, factors like inadequate human and economic development. Not up to the required standard is low income countries. From nations with low level of human development to countries with greater level of human skill, upgrading skills, getting welfare measures, universal health care. HDI is calculated four primary indicators: life expectancy in terms of health, predicted years of schooling. So, a lot of Indian parents would want their children to be educated abroad, considering the fact the quality of education in India is not of the international standard. Because at the end of the day, also remember one thing: the Indian labor is competing with the global labor, and we see these demographic dividends how we lose very fast. We were an IT hub, we were an English speaking IT country 2014. Uh, the English speaking has been taken up by Philippines, by various other countries. The IT has been taken by Pakistan, by Bangladesh, by Thailand. You lose all these, dividends very fast. So you have to constantly upskill. You need to invest in human capital. You need to, a whole lot of, and if you are not investing in human capital, remember your labor is not up to par on an international level. So if you have labor which is having health issues, you're losing out economically. And unfortunately, many a times in short-term policy prescriptions or policies which are determined by multinational corporations, countries lose out on this if they don't invest enough. So, for example, if you don't invest enough in R&D, you lose out because that skilled person will go out. Then there is something called free labor circulation. Freedom of labor. The freedom of labor circulation. A labor should be free to move. Who have free mobility are more likely to look for jobs in their destination nations. So, if you are going to have constraints in labor based on, let's say, criteria like caste or class, then what would you typically would happen is skilled persons who might be better off for a job is constrained for that particular job, getting him or her to leave the country. Which is typically what happened when engineering graduates came out of IITs. They found that jobs were not there for the skill sets. They all left. And today, most of the Silicon Valley in the US is driven by Indian and Chinese immigrants. And SK, what you were saying, once you go out and you get that kind of human development and the welfareism and the kind of, human capital or, the kind of opportunities, then why would you want to come back? You will come back and you won't find it adequate and you will go back right back.
Right, right.
See, at the end of the
Even so,
day,
the
sorry,
point that you have mentioned, like
correct,
the Chinese people, the way they are growing,
correct.
they have gone to USA, Singapore, every places. Their people are there,
Hmm.
and they are very big in manufacturing and all.
Hmm.
Sometimes some exhibitions that happens in India, these people participate, so we
Hmm.
feel nothing in front of them.
That is
Hmm.
because they
And
invest and they invested in that human capital, and also when they called their immigrants back home, the immigrants got a similar opportunity which still India is not able to offer. Though India also developed, for example, Bangalore has a lot of immigrants who have come in and set up the Silicon Valley in Bangalore. But then, development is not just a company, or it is a larger environment. Is it basic infrastructure? It also involves schooling. It involves healthcare. There are many much more, variables in setting up something and developing something. Sorry, SK, I cut you. Please continue. SK, you
yeah,
were saying something?
so this some of this news that comes up, like example, Chinese diaspora or like diaspora from Korea. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. I have interacted few people who have come over India, but I have not gone there. But I
Okay.
think in India, I find some bit of issues with the Indian people, even NRIs and all. Once they go abroad and all, they don't want to then interact with these native Indians.
Okay.
You got my point, nah?
Yeah, I got your
And
point. I
that's
got
why
your
we are
point.
losing. That's why
I
we are
got.
losing. Like if you go to US, you might be end up with meeting with Chinese people, Korean people, but you may not
Uh,
find Indian. Or if you find, they will pass by you, may not interact with you.
Acha, that's very interesting. And why do you think that is the case?
That I'm not sure. But what is the case? But that may be some bit of nature, probably
They
people
suddenly
from
feel that
Indian
their social
origin.
they suddenly feel their social status is much higher than the native Indians.
Yes, yes, yes. Only except that Prime Minister's visit, or the Prime Minister visits to various countries, New Zealand,
Uh, uh,
etc.
uh,
Ah, Mauritius, people
uh, uh.
greets only Prime Minister level.
Possible. So, see, we in the country have a lot of status issues and all that issues. This a lot of it is colonial issues, whereby, for example, English-speaking people are consider themselves to be on a higher pedestal than a non-English speaking person, and so on and so forth. Okay, maybe we need to find out a little more about this. Is it a generic case, or it is specifically to some examples of people that you met? SK?
Because I do little bit of research, and that's
Okay.
why I think there is maybe some what you call. I'm not sure what is the problem, but there is a problem.
Maybe if while you're doing your research, do find out, is it a generic issue or is it issue to specific people that you have met? It might be possible that your meeting
Yes, that may be.
so while you're doing this research, do some more research. It's a good point for an article. Hello, SK?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
And
okay.
another point, like in suppose example, all this international migration
Hmm.
and etc. That is mainly driven by all entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
people who have a job, offices in abroad and all. So from India, people here move from Indian some state to some other countries, etc. Okay. Now this
Okay,
number of entrepreneurs, if we consider, there are very limited number of entrepreneurs in India.
okay,
Uh, like Mukesh Ambani, Lakshmi Mittal,
okay,
uh, and then Anand Bormon, Bhushan
okay,
Steel, etc. But
okay,
apart from these entrepreneurs, there are lots of people who have also grown.
okay,
Okay, who have also grown, like people who is running a hotel industry in abroad.
okay,
Okay, or who is doing some other jobs. They are
okay,
not so well-known entrepreneur, but still they are very big.
okay,
But somehow people from India don't get any kind of link with them.
okay,
Got my point? Because the
okay,
entrepreneurs they are providing the jobs, and through which people are going to other countries and all.
okay.
But suppose in where the entrepreneur is based, beside there is some other offices is there.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Somebody from India like Gurgaon has set up an office
Mm.
in Gulf country.
Mm.
Okay, and beside there, Salman's the Prime Minister of Saudi is
Mm.
all players are there.
Mm.
Got my point? But they are not visible, and uh, and then they are also big player.
So
Hmm.
SK, what we will do is when we come to there is a unit on diaspora networking, diaspora entrepreneurship. We will speak in that particular units. How these
Okay,
networks
okay.
function, what
Functions,
typically
yes.
happens. Correct. So let's continue with this. We will come into when we go to that units, we will explore this further. But I certainly would like you to explore a little further whether it's a generic thing about this, what you talked about, Indians ignoring you, or is it specifically of some people that you have met? It's a good point for an article, actually. Okay, let's continue this further. Migration always has migration costs. A significant predictor of migration. The poorest section of society is sometimes denied migration because they cannot afford costs. In fact, there was a study conducted in Punjab a few years back where they found out that each family in Punjab is in debt because they have sold their lands to send their children abroad to Canada or the US. Whether that has slowed down over the years, I do not know. But this study was conducted, I think, 2021-22 by Punjab Agriculture University or something. I don't know whether. So that is one of the reasons why evidence-based research is needs to be done continuously to figure out what is happening. Because in the absence of research, most of us will tend to speak out of a particular experience or it becomes rhetoric. Various costs associated with migration include travel costs, fees related to migration, visa fees, permits, housing costs, other costs before making migration decisions. So that is why it becomes important if there is already somebody from your family or from your village or from your city or from your locality who is there in a place, then migration becomes a little easier. Then there are taxes and government safety nets. Programs like Manrega and other employment related schemes can function as both a push and a pull factor for migration. So if Manrega was typically when it was launched and subsequent researches had shown that Manrega actually decreased the poverty levels in this country and increase the pull for rural people to stay back in the rural areas rather than become a push factors for these people to come to the cities. Income tax system is progressive. High skilled migration may be discouraged because the higher the income generated by diaspora, the higher the amount of taxes that must be paid to the government. So progressive taxes becomes a deterrent. That's why a lot of countries who want to attract immigrants typically have little tax or zero tax. Then social insurance schemes and programs influences migration decisions, civic facilities, healthcare, better opportunities for children's education, post-retirement benefits. Government transfer that are generous may attract migrants. These programs are often restricted. For example, in the US, Canada, and other developed countries during COVID, money was transferred directly into the account of people, every citizen of the country, to tide over the immediate loss of income because of COVID. Now, that definitely is a pull factor for people to migrate. Exchange rate, business cycles, unemployment is one of the primary macroeconomic issues. not directly observable determinant, significant role in deciding and motivating individual and family migrating habits. That's why people migrate to the Gulf. The exchange rate is, you whatever you earn when you convert into rupees, it becomes so much better. Rupees, dollars, pounds, direct impact on relative processes abroad, purchasing power via remittances influenced by exchange rate. Currency destination, nation relation to country of origin, allow money earned abroad to be spent in home country, boosting financial benefits. So exchange rate becomes important. High unemployment in origin countries as a strong push factor. Recession, economic crisis, similar events influence migration decisions. So it becomes typically a ways to circumvent risk. So whether you migrate domestically or migrate internationally, it's a way to circumvent risk. Immigration policies have a major influence. In fact, when we talked about mobility, immigration policies have the power to reduce or increase migration or mobility. Involved in various types of migration are nationals of receiving country, return migration, or again return migration when the migrant comes back. Uh, why will depend on the stay in the host countries before the person decides to return. Many a times when the return happens, the return migrant is not able to adjust because the cultures have changed and then returns back. There is a process called cyclic migration, circular migration, where the migrant keeps moving back and forth between a host and a home country. The political backlash against immigration in many countries is not economically rational. As I was telling yesterday, there is a fight going on between economic sense and political sense today in the world. Politically, immigrants are targeted, which does not make any economic sense. Clear benefit to destination countries. Immigrants always is beneficial to both the destination and the origin countries. If people make decisions on the basis of their own economic self-interest, maximize efficiencies, overall output, and at least at some measure, general proposition markets are good at allocating resources, including human resources, widely shared among economists. So more often than not, any migration decision or all immigrants are beneficial economically. Because remember, immigrants are the ones who spend money. They will remit money back into the origin countries. In fact, research has shown, I don't know whether it's a part of this presentation or not, but if you search, research has shown the amount of GDP which the immigrants contribute to, let's say, the US or Europe, various countries. The real impact of immigration on the US. This is the 2023 report. Immigrants added 2 trillion to US GDP in 2016 and 458.7 billion to state, local, and federal taxes in 2018. Even after spent billions of dollars in taxes, immigrants were left with 1.2 trillion in spending power. Every life on a daily basis contributes to the economics of a country, because inevitably I buy goods, I buy services, I contribute by my labor power, and so on and so forth. And yet, look at the fact that after these studies, the politics is still going after the immigrants. So there is a fight between the politics and the economics. So let's sum up. Migration is a complex issue. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development recognizes the contribution of migration. So worldwide, it is now agreed that immigrants are good. that migration is a good thing, immigrants are good for a country, and yet we see that the politics of various countries seem to be pitting the natives against the immigrants. As migration is a dynamic phenomenon, it responds to a complex range of factors, including geopolitical situation to technological changes. There are some, there are some non-economic factors: ability, well-being, optimism, aspiration, risk tolerance. Between aggregate well-being and migration for utilizing well-being metrics, aggregate happiness levels in those countries rise, fewer people migrate out. So if people are satisfied in a particular country or in a particular region, there is no reason for them to migrate out. As we talked about deprivation, when they feel a sense of deprivation, happiness is also a sense of deprivation, they will migrate. Optimism can also influence migration decision. And so one of the reasons, SK, what you were talking about, entrepreneurs migrating, most of the migrants are younger and risk takers, and they are optimistic for a better life. Pessimists will not, are more hopeful than non-migrants according to research. So that's a non-economic factor. And if individuals are placed in a setting which is detrimental to their physical and mental health, if they migrate, they'll come back. Because migration puts a toll on the physical and mental health. The physical health because of the process of migration. Let's say you're taking a 15-hour flight to the US, it takes a toll. You come out there, then there is a border patrol which hassles you. There is racism. It takes a toll on the physical and the mental health. Conditions surrounding migration process can make people susceptible to illness. For those who are forced to migrate due to natural or man-made diseases, I don't want to migrate, but I'm forced to migrate also takes a toll on my physical and mental health. Innate ability, ambition, risk aversion, attitude. Ambitious people migrate more than those who comparable little or no ambitions. Now, non-economic determinants cannot be quantified, and that's why they seem to be invisible, but they are very much there. They are difficult to measure. Whereas economic factors are much easier to measure, and that is why they come to the forefront. So these are some of the non-economic factors. In fact, there are these pros and cons. Now here, in this particular slide, demographic factors have also, so economic factors, another important factor are the demographic factors. What are the demographic factors? Age, gender, sex. So all these factors also add up. So Western countries which are much more older need young people. Then that acts as a pull factor for people, younger people from the global south to migrate. Increase in income differentials, migrant networks. So and if there is a migrant network already existing, it enables more migration to happen.
So
Migration
this
serves as
point what you mentioned, this political versus economic.
okay,
I was working as a reporter for some times.
okay,
Okay, so this is a new experience that I have got.
okay,
And like in the economic side, this all entrepreneurs are there.
okay,
All entrepreneur businessmen, their roles is to increase the economics of the people's state. Okay,
okay,
and the political they rule the state or the
okay,
country.
okay,
But I think beyond these two, there are other categories of people are there. They are also playing into this market. Okay,
okay.
for example, few months back, suddenly there is a shortage of LPG cylinder,
Correct.
and there is no, even the dealer said that we don't have any supply.
Okay,
So this is if this is not done from that company itself, then who has then done this? And you have
Uh,
seen it
that
created panic
particular correct that
across
particular
the poor
sorry
state.
sorry
Ah,
SK, at
so
that particular time the Gulf War had started, the Middle East war had started, and shippings were contained. Then,
okay,
as you rightly said, when there is an event which happens, there are today forces, both political and economic, who would like to take advantage of a particular situation.
right, right,
So we see, in the absence of figures, valid figures from the government. For example, if government was to come across and give us figures and says that we are, there is a shortage, we have this problem because of the war, only these many days. Unfortunately, the government cannot give out these figures because that leads to, hoarding. That governance is a complicated issue.
right, 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 right. So because I have interacted both of this category, example entrepreneurs and all. I have
Okay,
some work experience when I work with the entrepreneurs, and
okay,
also I have closely interacted with few political leaders. Okay,
okay.
including some state chief ministers. I don't think they are so bad, but I think the market is driven by somebody else
Correct. See,
or some group of people.
SK,
Hmm.
you were
And
not, SK, sorry, you were not there in the, I think you were there in the transnationalism in the globalization unit. Today, a large part of the politics is driven by economics, number one. But a large part of the local or national economics is now being driven by the multinational corporations and
right,
non-state actors. For example, try and do a little research on Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Bill Gates and their driving Indian policy. Look at how the American administration today is driving Indian policy.
right, right, right,
So today, the way a state functions, it has to take care of many state and non-state actors. And economic non-state actors are today a major considerations for states. So if the states are not careful, then it can lead to chaos.
right, right. And even we may not know from which it is originating.
Correct.
Ah,
We will never come to know how those actors are playing or pulling the
right, right.
strings. Yeah. Okay. So let's quickly sum up. Economic determinants influence variety of things: labor shortage, purchasing good. When there are more people working, productivity grows. Push and pull factors are considered when creating immigration schemes and regulations. Policies must be established with that purpose in mind. As I was telling yesterday, unless policies are established using stakeholders, unless we know what are the figures of people immigrating, people migrating, people coming back in terms of return migration, why are they staying, why are they not staying, unless some research happens, unless evidence-based research is done and policies are made according to this evidence-based research, the rest of the things obviously will be more in terms of speculation or politics leading to chaos. All factors influencing migration are vital and interconnected. It's impossible to say which economic issue matters the most, whether it is a risk and an income diversity, insurance. So there are all these factors operate at different level. And unless there is research done, there is evidence brought out to say that these factors have this much percentage, policy making becomes a shot in the dark. There are some references given in the unit. In case you wish to read further, you can go on Google Scholar, or even when you search on economic determinants, you'll come across scholarly articles. There is a Jonathan Port's a Sage. It's a open source. You can read this in terms of economics of migration. and I come to an end. In case there is any question that you wish to ask, that's me. I'm sitting in a different position. That's why the light seems to be crazily coming on me. Any question that you wish to ask, Nikita?
No, sir, I'm all good.
Okay, I hope I didn't go too fast. I tried to compress everything to try and make sure that we don't sit for a longer time. The SLMs, as I said, are written in simple language. Many a times, because of academicians writing it, I feel they appear a little dense or circular or circuitous. In such cases, please do cross verify using search engines or AI assist. Again, as I said, the note is that AI assists are notorious for giving wrong information. Please cross verify. And when you are writing an examination answer, you would need to craft an answer by using some keywords. Keywords become important for the examiner to know that you understood the topic. Okay.
Sir, you have taken a very excellent session.
Thank you.
But if you can give a brief intro about you.
Okay, so my name is Abhay Chavla. I done my PhD in sociology of communication. I have been teaching migration and diaspora for the last 3-4 years. I am an academic counselor in IGNU. Otherwise, I also teach subjects of mass communication, human rights, myriad kind of topic. I am a visiting professor in IP University, and I live in Gurgaon and Haryana, which is a part of Haryana. SK, I hope that's brief enough.
Yes, yes, sir.
Wonderful. You can always search me on Google. If you Google me, you can see my photo. You can search me out. You can read the books that I have written or the articles that I have written, and so so. I have 3 books under my belt as an author, 2 of which are textbooks. So that's that. SK?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, then we'll close the session. We'll meet again at 5 o'clock to do the module on gender and diaspora. We will look at women as bearers of culture and how the migration policies affect women. Okay. Okay. Bye, guys. Then see you.
Thank you, sir.